Well, by now you may have exhausted your list of Netflix films as you've been staying mostly at home. Well, here is something else to consider. Home movies of Japanese Canadian families in BC. An extensive collection of home movies has been assembled by the Nikkei National Museum and Cultural Center. And Lisa Uyeda is the collection's manager. Lisa, hello there.
Hello, how are you?
I am doing really well. So where did the idea come from to collect home movies from local families?
Well, our community archives at the Nikkei National Museum plays a big role in helping us achieve our mandate to honor, preserve, and share Japanese culture and Japanese Canadian history and heritage for a better Canada. So it's part of our mandate to preserve and make these accessible.
Okay, you're speaking very broadly here now, Lisa. I know you have to
Yes.
set it up for us. I want specifics. What do we see?
So our oldest films date to the 1920s, and they were donated to us by Kei Kaminishi, who you may know is the last surviving member of the Vancouver Asahi baseball team. So they show films of the BC logging industry. His father was a partner in Royston Lumber Mill. It also shows the historic Powell Street neighborhood, which is now what we call the downtown east side. You can also see beautiful shots of the neon lights on Granville Street. And films from the Steve Sasaki collection are from the 1930s, and they capture important events in BC history. You can see women and girls dressed in formal kimono and men in suits lining Main Street by Pacific Central Station, getting ready to welcome King George VI and Queen Elizabeth during their tour to Canada in May of 1939.
So you've had a chance to peruse all of these home movies. What stood out for you personally as you're going through it? Anything surprise you?
Oh, there's lots of surprises there, but probably my favorite is truly one-of-a-kind footage of Jigoro Kano, who was the founder of judo. And he visited Canada around 1937 or 1938. And so you can see him greeting the community, visiting Gross Mountain, boarding a train to visit other cities across Canada. So it's really remarkable that we are so lucky to have this footage that captures that early part of not only judo history, but Canadian history too.
So how difficult was it for you to gather this all up and convert it and post it?
We're very lucky that we were able to get assistance from Library and Archives Canada, as well as our volunteer auxiliary, to help us raise the funds necessary to digitize these films. It took us about a year and a half, and we had to hire a conservation film technician to prepare these films because they've been sitting for almost 100 years. So depending on their storage conditions, they were in disarray or quite playable. So we're lucky to prepare them, send them off for digitization, and then get them back so that we can share them for free online with the public.
So why is this important for you personally, to keep this record and to save these images for future generations?
Yeah, I think what is most remarkable is the fact that these films have survived for almost 100 years. Captured in the Tomojiro Inoue films, which survived the forced uprooting and dispossession of Japanese Canadians from the West Coast during the Second World War. These family films documented their everyday life in Pauldy on Vancouver Island before the war, their life in the Lemon Creek internment camp where they lived in a shack, and their second uprooting to Vernon before their rights as citizens were restored in 1949. So these films capture a remarkable time in Canadian history, and we see that in other documents like photographs and diaries, but film just brings it to life, and it allows you to watch and to relate to those experiences that much more.
Oh, for sure. Well, it's wonderful. It's going to be accessible to all. But how do you think this kind of footage could be used in the future?
Well, we're hoping that the schools will be able to use them to help educate this part of Canadian history. There's lots of opportunities for documentaries, online websites that might have more of an educational twist. But I think, the sky's the limit. They could be used within art installations, galleries, exhibits. So I think there's quite a lot that can happen with these films.
Well, thank you very much for this little preview. We'll have to check it out more in depth in the future. Lisa, thank you.
Thank you so much, Gloria.